Thank you, Jasmine. Sorry.
Were you close?
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for October 9th, 2024, Animal Control Commission. We can stand for the pledge of allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Give me a roll call.
Leonis. Present. Gary Blake,
Present.
Jody Moses. Present. Laura Mitchell. Present. Maxine Anderson. Here. Alberta Benetti. Here. Angela Hoffman. Here. And Director Christine Walker.
Present.
All right, just a quick reminder, everybody got cell phones or anything, then please silence them. Public comments?
Yes, and I just want to, we have one at the moment, but I want to remind the public that we're here to be professional and respectful and hear everybody's thoughts and opinions. So each person has 3 minutes to speak. And we're going to ask people that when that person is speaking, that you don't try and talk over them. And that when we have presenters that we're also not talking over them or making comments about them while they're speaking. We just want to give everybody an opportunity to listen and hear what others have to say. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and start.
Sharon Negretti is our first speaker.
And we have the podium set up here for this.
Okay.
It's already called roll.
Yes.
So, hello. I have these papers here. I can hand them out. We got a few copies. This is the outcome, the actual outcomes last year, which the save rate was actually 50%. You can take a look at it.
Please just go ahead and read them as
Why there's such discrepancy when we just reminisced about it, but when you see all these, you'll be able to see exactly what happened. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It's time for people to relinquish their seats to individuals who will be involved, actively promoting animal welfare in the community by acquiring knowledge of these shelter operations to make recommendations, which is what you all should be doing. I'm not aware of any recommendations or observations made to your council members that would benefit our animals. There is a municipal code. If you're not familiar with it, you should read it. Section 3. The commission shall provide advisory recommendations on strategies, policies, and programs for quality animal care. I haven't seen anybody do that. I haven't seen anybody have city council meetings. You're supposed to increase awareness of animals available for adoption at the animal shelter. Educate the community on the humane treatment of animals related to animal services. Municipal Code, Section 4, members of the commission must be appointed based on demonstrated knowledge and experience in areas related to animal care, husbandry, behavior, or on the commission's mission. I know for a fact there's people here that have no experience with animals, and I don't see anybody promoting anything. Anyway, I don't understand this because the animals are suffering there. Did anybody know? I don't know, Chris Watson. There was pictures of a lady who adopted a dog that the nails were cut out.
I'm sure they.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Georgie L.
Watson. Last year, you and I discussed the enforcement of animal control laws like spay and neuter. And I raised concern why you discontinued the licensed checkers. At the time, you spoke about community support. What I didn't realize then was the scale of the scam being perpetrated on us all. The so-called community-based sheltering that has driven the catastrophic crisis we're now facing. This is a consequence of yet another one of your failures to protect these animals and serve our city. All of you here are complicit. Unfortunately, the community didn't get the memo about this scheme and we're left cleaning up this mess. To make matters worse, you ignored our pleas for help as millions of dollars in grant funding intended for the welfare of our animals were misused to cover up your shortcomings, Director Watson. Misuse of funds, egregious failures, and unjustified deaths of innocent animals are happening under your watch, cloaked in darkness. Somehow you've managed to inflate this department's budget to over $10 million while continuing to systematically kill hundreds of animals each month, but not before you starve, torment, or leave them to die in their cells. Why haven't you been fired? It seems you're helping the city subsidize the budget with these millions turning innocent lives into a financial commodity. Meanwhile, the department is cutting corners at the bottom instead of trimming the unnecessary fat at the top. Even with nearly double the staff, the shelter is in disgraceful condition. Animals are starving, suffering. We demand you feed these animals. And you have the audacity to continuously blame and beg the public for help. What are you doing, Director Watson? Shame on all of you. You should resign from this commission for dereliction of duty and egregious conflicts of interest, but not before you take a vote of no confidence in this director who, after 4 disastrous years, has clearly shown no ability to run this department effectively or save more lives. Keep smiling, Angela. We seem to hire the best and the worst, and we pay them all. Your veterinary staff can't even distinguish between male and female animals or recognize a tumor from testicles. Lastly, the statistics are a damn lie. My calculations come up with more like 56% barely. The poor souls left to the street still do count. Miss Watson, the community is waking up. Pay attention. And if you haven't realized it yet, I am disgusted.
Thank you.
Those were all the speakers.
All right, we'll go to the consent calendar. If everybody wants to look over the minutes for the regular meeting from April and then the special meeting from July, if there's any changes that need to be made or any corrections. If somebody would, do you have correction? Okay, does anybody have any corrections? If somebody would like to make a motion to approve, both of them? Okay, call for the question, can you just raise our hands? Yes. Raise your hand for approval. Right. All right, we'll go to the agenda, item number 2, regional partnership update, turn it over to the director.
Thank you, Vice Chair Blake. So I have a couple of updates regarding the regional partnership. And then I am going to also be covering a couple of the programs and services. I am going to turn it over to Jasmine and Leslie in a few minutes to give updates on their programs. Leslie De La Camara is our community outreach manager, and Jasmine Glover McNamara is our deputy director. And we have some really cool programs that have been really taking off with the additional staffing. So with the additional partnership on the last page of your packet, I do have the intake totals by city and jurisdiction from I dated it June 26th through September 30th. So essentially the first full quarter of the regional partnership. As you can see by the totals, the city bringing in the most obviously is still ours, followed by Fontana, Rialto, Fulton, Loma Linda, and Grand Terrace. Again, primarily dogs, and we're continuing to see that not only in our shelter, but in other shelters throughout the region, that we're seeing record numbers of dogs coming in, longer length of stay, and not as many moving through the system. As you are aware, we've had some challenges to the on-site construction. The isolation and sick ward, we expect the completion of that building by the end of this month. We actually have them on site and the walls are going up, and the insulation too. So we have 3 walls up. When I was leaving, they were finishing bolting some of the walls. Once all of the walls and the insulation are completed, we have another contractor that will be coming out to run electrical and connect all of the sewer and water lines and install mini split air conditioning and heating units. So that building will be fully heated. There are windows that open so we can get fresh air in there. We also have a roll-up door that will be able to roll up so the dogs just won't be just stuck in the inside the building. This is specifically for our sick animals. The kennels were purchased in 2022. And we've had some delays with the building, but now that it's going up, we're all really excited to have this go in. The flooring also needs to be sealed, and Public Works is working on that. I have meetings with them every month to discuss the status of or not every month, every week, to discuss the status and make sure things are moving and progressing forward as we need them to be. The modular office building that we also ordered and the mayor and city council approved the purchase of should also be delivered within the next couple of weeks and placed in that front parking lot and fully operational. So staff will be moved in instead of sitting in a desk in the middle of a walkway. So we'll have that up and running. That's really exciting. The site water quality management assessment and grading plan. Because of the size and scope of the renovations being done, as I mentioned previously, that did trigger a requirement by the state to have a water quality management assessment and plan in place. And so they had a couple of quotes. They're moving forward with one vendor, and that will run in conjunction with the site grading plan to make sure that we have sufficient drainage. We have showed our Public Works team where we have some issues with drainage, where we often get flooded, especially after cleaning, and we want to make sure that they fix those issues while we're doing the site renovations. And then the 12 modular kennel buildings, we've ordered them. We have the purchase order cut. And we have all of the technical designs specs now, and the plans. So now that our public works team has that, they're gonna be working on getting those concrete pads. Once we have the site improvement done, all of the grading plan and the water quality assessment. We already know where we're going to place those buildings, and so the public works team will be making sure that we have everything that's required under those technical specs on those plans to ensure that it's going to be a smooth process once the buildings get delivered. We do expect them to be delivered by June of next year, and it is one of those things where they're manufactured completely offsite, like a modular building. The company comes, delivers them, places them on the concrete pad, and then we have other contractors come in and connect them, but they're ready to basically plug and play. Does anybody have any questions about that part of it?
Yes.
You have a question? I'm gonna go over the building lease portion of it in a minute, but you have a question on any of the construction?
I have a question.
Yes.
Now, is Dr. Ramona on 8th or 5th?
I'll go over that. We actually have a Casa Ramona on 5th. That is the former daycare center. And that is where we have the cats housed right now. Casa Ramona, the nonprofit, actually had another building become vacant and they offered it to us. It's actually off of 8th and Medical Center Drive. It was a psychiatric lock-in facility. It's next to a senior housing complex over there on 8th. It's a little over 7,000 square feet. And they're individual exam rooms, fully linoleum. And so there are 2 different sides and 2 different entrances. So once the mayor and city council approved that lease agreement, and the Casa Ramona team are working on moving out of the facility. Once they're out and they vacate, we can take occupancy. We're going to do some site improvements. We're going to be installing what's called a clinic sink. And if you're not familiar with that, that's basically, it looks like a really big urinal. And that is commonplace in other shelters that have been upgraded or vet hospitals. And essentially, you scoop up all of the solid waste and you flush it down the clinic sink, and there's no disposal of the feces. It goes directly to the sewer system like everything else. So we are going to be installing one of those just to kind of facilitate cleaning there at that location. It'll make it a little easier, sanitary, and it won't be quite as smelly. Then we're going to be putting some surface on the walls. It's called Aquaman, and it's like a hard plastic covering that will make it easy for us to clean and disinfect. And then we're going to be assessing what makes the most sense as far as kennels are concerned, because these are small exam rooms that are about roughly the same size as you would have in a kennel. We're looking at getting those door height gates for dogs, so that will be their kennel. You'll have a gate that's in the door, and then at night we'll close the door and make sure they're secure. But during the day, the doors will be open with that, and when nobody's there, the doors will be closed overnight so that they are secured. And we'll do what we can to keep them. There's cabinets with sinks in there, and so we'll probably set up some baby gates and stuff in front of those so they don't have access to those things. And then, yes.
You wanna,
Let me finish that one then, yeah. And then the boarding facility that we have up in the north of the city, we do have moms and puppies there and some friendlier peaceful dogs. It is a former a facility that was used for grooming and boarding, short-term boarding. And so there are about roughly 20 different kennels up there where we're housing the dogs. Especially moms and puppies, because then that gets the friendly ones, because the kennels aren't set up like our current ones with the guillotine where we can make sure staff is safe. So if we have aggressive moms and puppies, they are still staying at the shelter. But the ones that are friendly are going up there in a secure enclosure, and they're away from all of the other animals. We have seen that that's been pretty effective at keeping them away from some of the other things we have at the shelter, like the parvo we're heading into upper respiratory season, unfortunately. So with all of the wet weather, so we're hoping that different facility, it's air conditioned, heated, and it's all inside. So the fewer animals up there, it's not quite as loud as the shelter. So it gives them an opportunity to rest and decompress, especially for moms and puppies. We all know how important that is. So.
Where is that? What facility is that?
So it's in the north of the city. Our lease is constructed so that only staff can go in and go to the facility. That is the way that the lease owner wants it, that only city staff members can enter. So we're not necessarily divulging the exact location of the building right now. Just because we need that lease to stay in place. We don't want to be responsible for breaking our lease and having people go up there and present themselves and try and gain entry into the location that could potentially break our lease, and we'd lose that opportunity to have our moms and puppies in a safe location.
And it holds, has 20 kennels.
We have, I think, about 45 to 50 dogs up there right now. We have a lot of moms and litters. And we think about 100 dogs at the Casa Ramona site. And since there are 2 separate sides and 2 separate entrances, the cats that are now over at 5th and Medical Center Drive will be shifted over there so that we are only separating our staff at 3 different locations in the city. There's no way that we could stretch to hit all 4 locations. And so having that site where there are 2 different sides where we can safely house cats on one side and dogs on the other, they're completely separate. That will be beneficial. The site has sufficient parking spaces, and there's even an area where we're going to set up a little play yard outside where we can take the dogs out there as well. So,
Are animals up for adoption and open to the public at Casa?
yes.
The sick ward,
Yes.
those are, that's the structure that had to be built before those kennels could be assembled, right?
Yes.
The 12 modular kennel buildings. Will house how many?
So each of those buildings has between 12 and 16 kennels per building. So once we're done with all of the renovations, we should have 311 separate kennels on site with our current setup as well as the new ones.
Do you expect it to be one dog per kennel?
That's the hope, unless they came in together. That is the hope. Right now, we have 460 dogs on campus. If we had that many kennels, it would be limited. We wouldn't have to co-house as many dogs. We would be able to house 1 to 2 dogs per kennel, depending on how they came in. Obviously, we want to try and keep litters together if they're underage. So that would obviously bring up the number of dogs per kennel. But in general, the goal is to house only 1 to 2 dogs per kennel, so that we can fully implement a lot of those enrichment programs. Our volunteers have an easier time getting dogs out of the kennel. It's really hard when you have 3 to 4 dogs in a kennel, and sometimes 5 dogs, and the puppies, there's more in those kennels. It's really hard for somebody to remove 1 dog safely from that kennel to get them to playgroup staff. And I'll let staff talk about some of the things that we are doing to get more dogs out of their kennel and facilitate additional cleaning. But for the future, the goal really is to try and keep our population as low as possible and make sure that we're not housing as many dogs per kennel.
Well, I had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Reference to intake
Yeah.
says other. I would
Mhm.
assume that would probably be somebody trying to scan from another city.
No, actually, what a lot of those are, some of them are from another city. But most of them are people who maybe adopted a dog and it's beyond the 30-day return period. And they're bringing them back within 45 days and they're still bringing them in. So that's what those others are. Those are returns. essentially.
Okay, what about San Bernardino County?
Occasionally we get animals that come in from over the border or somebody doesn't want to take them to Devore. We'll intake them and we'll contact Devore to pick them up or we'll transport them up there to them.
Any other questions on this topic? Now we can move on to agenda item number 3, staff
Yes.
update on programs and services.
So I will actually let Jasmine talk about the staffing. She's been really leading the drive on the recruitment front. So I'll let her address that.
Yeah, so pretty straightforward. We currently have 8 people in background. They're either gonna be starting on Monday, or they're still waiting for their medical to get clearance to get a start date. And then that, after those, it leaves us with 5 vacancies. We have an open recruitment for 2 veterinarians. I have an open recruitment for 1 kennel attendant. We finished second round interviews today for 1 manager. Hopefully we'll be making a decision on that soon. And then I have an open recruitment for 1 animal officer.
And then we've been launching some additional initiatives to try and increase return to owner rates at the shelter. So I'm gonna let Leslie talk about some of those lost and found program changes that we've been making to try and make it easier for people to find their lost pets.
Yeah,
So
so
one of the handouts.
I don't, it's in the packet, the first page.
It's right before the stats.
It's the 6th page.
The second page?
6.
The second.
Oh, interoffice memo.
we've been doing on our website and talking about using okay, using Paw Boost, Nextdoor, Ring, all of that. So Paw Boost, we have added Paw Boost and Petco Love Lost to our website. So what Paw Boost does, it helps us create lost and found pet reports. Paw Boost has been integrated into our shelter database. So anytime an animal has been impounded into our shelter, the community can see that through Paw Boost. And let's say if a member from our community or contract cities thinks that their animal is there, they can actually send us a message or even call us. So let's say our friend here is lost and their owner is looking for her. They will see that on Paw Boost and they can click, send an email, and it automatically lets our customer service team know their information and we can reach out. Petco Love Lost utilizes a facial recognition technology to match lost pets with photos within our intake. So let's say you lost a pet. I take a picture of my pet and I upload her. Let's say I'm the owner and she'll automatically pop up on Petco Love Lost. So that way owners have a higher chance to find their pets. And they also help too by making these lost and found flyers that you can automatically fill out, generate, and print around your community too. So that way you can post it online. Paw Boost too, another nice thing about that, there are some volunteers that we're trying to recruit to use that as well, and also the community. Anytime there's a post about Paw Boost on there, they can share it and on their social media like Facebook, Instagram, and it makes it really accessible to do that. And Nextdoor, we are almost in finishing works with that. We just need to make a GIS map, so that way we can put all of our contract cities, including us. So if there's any animals that are lost, we can post it in those neighboring areas. Neighbors, we just got up. It's not on here, but it's Ring, so it's neighbors. So let's say we have Ring. I personally have Ring cameras, and if you don't, you can download Neighbors. Neighbors and Ring, they post the exact same thing. We can actually see all of the lost pets within the community, and we can actually comment back. For example, also too, not just for that, but if we have any events that are coming up, we do want to start, we're working with Paul Mission to let the community know about their vaccines. So that will be coming up soon. We'll be putting that out to all of our contract cities about their low cost vaccines and microchips. And I feel like that will help. And for the microchip scanner, I'll let you talk and I'll continue.
So, we've been working closely with Gary Yeager, from the, county fire department. And, I have this vision of getting microchip scanners into all of the, fire stations within the city. And, through our partnership with San Diego Humane, they generously donated 10 microchip scanners to us. And so that's gonna allow us to have one scanner in each of the fire departments around the city. So, we've been working closely with him. We're hoping to have a launch date for this. I'm thinking maybe November, because he's been so busy with the fires. We just are kind of like pushing it out. But essentially, we will have a flyer that will be posted, and so the community will have access to this information so that they'll know, like, if you find a pet and you're curious to see if it has a microchip, what the steps are for you to do to get to a fire station and have them scan the pet for you. Let's say you take your pet, or you take the lost pet, and you come up, it shows it has a microchip. Then someone at the fire department, they're gonna write down the microchip number for you. They're gonna give you this little slip of paper, and it's gonna explain exactly what the constituent needs to do moving forward. So they can either decide to keep the pet, contact us, we'll put in the lost pet form, and we'll have them send us a picture. They can come down to the shelter so that we can vaccinate the pet for them before they take it home. We can give them supplies that they'll need to keep the pet, so it doesn't have to be in the shelter. And then we'll give them all the information so they can start posting the pet on all of the Ring, next door, neighbors, all of that stuff. Hopefully reunite the pet without it ever having to come into the shelter.
And because this is a new program, and it hasn't launched yet, we did not print the flyers, but I will absolutely send them to you. We'll include the information we upload, the video to the meeting so that everybody who is, here or, interested in what's going on can pull it up and find it. And so we're really hoping that this enables the community to find who this pet belongs to and connect with their neighbors and get those animals home so they don't have to get into the shelter at all.
Now, that all of us do?
It's gonna be the 10 that we have within the city.
Yeah, and so we, in order to roll this out, we're creating the policy for the fire department. They have to approve it. So we have the scanners, and Jasmine has been working with the fire department and visiting the stations to get this rolling.
Yeah, and they're really excited about it.
Yeah.
We
They
think it'll
wanna
be a
help
great
it.
partnership.
The PD already have scanners too?
I don't think so.
No, they usually, if they have an issue and they're out on a call with an animal, they call us. They don't usually pick up the dog, so then we respond with PD.
Regarding others and the other resources, is that something that you're trying to communicate to the community, or is that something done now by SBC staff or implemented?
No, so we will actually be doing that with the community. Right now, we are responding to those inquiries that we're getting from Papa's, but we do want to put out using Nextdoor and Ring/neighbors and announce it to all of them, so that way they're aware and they can all use it together. So that way we can reunite their pets, get back to them.
We're working out the kinks right now. So once we have everything, we're kind of beta testing to a certain extent. We have the links up on our website, especially with Papa's. So, I don't know if you guys have any familiarity with that. I know I have found a lost pet once, and it's one of the first ones the first websites that pop up when you search lost pet. And so you can enter that, create the flyer, and it gets posted to all the social media outlets. And so I found a loose dog in Rancho Cucamonga 2 years ago, and I uploaded it, and within an hour, the owner had called me, or texted me or messaged me through Papa's, and I was able to get the dog back to her. And so, it's just another, format that people are familiar with. So even if the shelter doesn't pop up, they're able to use that. In addition, we have the link on our website and they're automatically getting that information. So they have a direct link to our chameleon database. So as soon as we post a stray pet or a found pet or a lost pet with that picture, that goes to Paw Boost and it gets pushed out to their website. So if somebody's looking for their pet and they search online because they search lost pet and they get to the Paw Boost site, they put in their pet's information and Paw Boost will say, hey, is this same rough area, same kind of description? It's a match. And then they'll message us and say, hey, I think this is my pet. Staff will reach back out to them and facilitate that redemption.
So your intake stands for
Yes, yes. And it's going to be syncing with Petco Love Lost as well for the same reason. So it's not something that has to have staff actively do that.
Yeah.
It's something that's just automatic. As soon as a record is input into the system, it goes to that platform. Petco Love Lost is pretty cool because it has that facial recognition software feature. Where if somebody uploads a picture of their lost pet and we have a pet that's found, it says, hey, I think we found a match. Take a look at this. So.
Any other questions?
How long have you guys been doing the Paw Boost?
2 weeks, I think.
Okay.
That's why
It hasn't been announced yet. Once we finish.
But I've already seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty nice. I've used it. Yeah. Yeah, so we've
Yeah.
been getting a lot of inquiries from the public and I've been going through our emails and they're like, hey, this is my dog. So then we just like let them know, call us, email us and verify. So it's working.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of, I think, RTOs for people that have come in. So it's effective. I'm hoping that, you know, by the time January hits, that we see some increased RTO rates and reduced time at the shelter for all of the communities, because even for like Rialto and Fontana and any of those animals that come in from the other jurisdictions, that information is going out there as well.
Does this mean there are 2 veterinarian positions?
Yes.
Open?
Yes.
Did you already cover that?
No, Jasmine's no, we didn't necessarily cover that in particular, but there are 2 veterinary positions open, 2 staff vet positions. I'm working with HR and our new acting city manager to get a per diem position to take one of those positions and turn it into a per diem position so that we can do bring in vets who want to just come in and do a day of spay neuter or a day of assistance in the shelter to help with the animals. A lot of vets right now, what we're finding throughout the industry and a lot of the classes and seminars I've been to and talking to some of the vets at UC Davis and San Diego Humane is that the vets really want to be able to have a flexible work schedule. They want to be able to come in and work for 8 hours, once a week, twice a week at different locations, and then not have that commitment factor, right? And so we're trying to pivot to be as flexible as possible so that we can get vets there. But the way that the city is structured, they can only, it would be technically a part-time position because again, that there's the contract option, but that is really difficult. A lot of vets don't want to do based on contract because then they, at the end of the year, they have to file their own taxes, figure out like, you know, what they need to pay based on what they made. Part-time per diem positions that are structured or done through the city as a part-time position, we automatically take out the taxes that they would owe based on what they submit on their W-4. So that makes it really easy for them to come in and work for a couple of days. And at the end of the year, when they're done, they get their tax statement earnings, and then they're able to file their taxes pretty easily. And also, if you have a contract with the city of San Bernardino, you have to get a business license. You have to get, there's other things that come along with that aren't necessarily required for per diem veterinarian. But the way our salary and employee structure works is that right now, per diem vets are getting up to $1,500 for an 8-hour workday. Our current salary rate for a full-time vet, which is very different, you know, coming in and working like 40 hours a week. our pay would have to be based on hourly, so we're trying to make some changes within our staff system or position system. To get that before the mayor and city council to approve that change so that we can bring in a per diem position and hire multiple vets in on a per diem position, and pay them $1,400 to $1,500 for that day of work. Yeah, it's really complicated, and I'm more than happy to have an online conversation with any of you guys to discuss that. So, ma'am, I'm gonna ask you to please refrain from doing that if you
Can't
can.
do this, I'm not talking,
It's really disruptive.
I'm sorry.
So, we are trying to do that to be as flexible as possible. It's a little difficult to get that done again because the mayor and city council have to approve that. And it's a different, structure than our regular position. So, but I am working with HR and that the city manager is aware of the need for that position.
Like all.
There are a bunch that are interested in doing per diem positions. And until I get that position structured and approved, I can't bring them in. So.
Any other questions on number 3?
I just have a question about, the Paul Boo's, Petco Love and all that fun stuff. Have you guys, I know Facebook is kind of a dying breed now, with all the lost and found pages. Have you guys pushed anything out to the lost and found pages about Paul Boo's and everything like that yet?
I'm testing everything first, and once we do, I need to figure out where these are going. I've used Paboose myself in my community, and typically when you post Paboose and you find a pet, it already goes to these specific lost and found pages, so I need to see where they're going. Oh, you've been seeing it. Where is it going?
I've been seeing, I see the Paboose,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then someone will share it too.
There's
Okay,
like
that's
volunteers
okay.
within the
Yeah.
community.
I've seen a lot of them, and
Yeah.
that's how I saw the
Some of
one
our
that was,
dogs.
from you
Yeah,
guys, yes.
that's good.
Yeah.
So I know that they're getting, I follow like every
Yeah.
lost and found,
And
yeah.
we can send out more information.
But even on Instagram, it does.
It
Yeah,
goes to
they're gonna
Instagram and
okay.
Facebook.
Yeah, it does go on, Paboose is on Instagram.
Yeah.
I know San Bernardino has a zillion lost and found.
Yeah.
They do.
So that's kind of the problem, I think, with that. So yeah, I have a partner in Redland, so maybe she might know some of the admins for those pages, so maybe we
Yeah.
could connect some of that
That would be
information.
awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we can go on to number 4, statistics.
Okay. So, attached in your packet, you have multiple statistics, and again, this is the standard filter animal counts industry format statistics. That include all intakes and outcomes of live animals. We have the multiple ones. And so we have the multiple dates here. So the first page will be January through September. Our dog save rate is roughly for dogs, adult dogs and puppies is roughly about 81 to 82%. And then, ma'am, if you can't be quiet during the meeting and be respectful, then I am going to ask you to leave. And then we have the cat save rate, which is unfortunately much lower. Just because we are only taking in injured and sick underage cats and kittens, which are a much more difficult population to attend to, and they require a lot more intensive care. Neonatal kitten that's a week old needs feedings every 2 to 4 hours and over around the clock. And so we have to get fosters or rescues to pull those animals. If they aren't, then the most humane thing we can do is to euthanize them at the end of the day. Some of those animals come in very sick, newborns with the umbilical cord still attached, very unthrifty, cold. The chance of survival with animals in that population is very, very low. So again, the most humane thing that we can do is to euthanize them and relieve their suffering. So automatically that euthanasia rate for that population of animals is much higher than anything else. And so the combined save rate right now is 69%. Obviously, that's a number that we would like to increase, and we're hoping to see that with a lot of these increased RTO rates and some of the other initiatives, community initiatives that we're Leslie is going to speak about in a few minutes. So the next one is just the first quarter of the year, those statistics. Again, the save rate for dogs with both adults and juveniles combined is roughly 81%, roughly. And again, those cat numbers are much lower and the combined save rate is at 66%. And then I have the specific individual months as well, so you can see that breakdown and see what those months look like as far as intake and outcomes are concerned, as well as those save rate percentages. September save rate was a little bit higher. The number of animals euthanized in care was a little bit lower for the month of September, as far as the dogs are concerned. We're at the end of kitten season, so we're starting to see those cat and kitten intakes reduce, so that those numbers will also start to go down. And then we have a page that that talks about the statistics where we have some of these out there right now. And it just goes over like the top things. So it talks about the save rate for dogs, the save rate for cats, just for the month of September. I'm going to let Leslie talk about some of the program initiatives and community outreach things that are going on. We have right now, we're seeing an increase in our volunteer hours at the shelter, which is really cool. You know, we have multiple people that are coming in. We have groups that come in weekly to help us out, especially special needs groups that are coming to put together like bags of food or put together microchip packets just to help the staff and families. And yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
As accusations are made about the data, the difference is what type of population?
The difference is what type of calculation, and people, we only include live animals. So I know there are some calculations out there where people think that we should be including any animals that we picked up off of the streets deceased. That's not part of the industry-wide best practices, and that's not something we include. That is another set of statistics. We do count animals that are impounded deceased and we report those out. But this set of statistics is called save rate or live out. And it counts animals that have come into the shelter alive and looks at the numbers that leave alive or leave deceased. We can't include animals that come in deceased because there's no opportunity to save them at that point in time. So they are not part of this calculation. And that's why you see a disparity in numbers, because there are some people out there that are including deceased animals in that save rate calculation, which is not something that is industry standard.
And the animals that do deceased, it's on here somewhere, it's just separated.
It's not in this because this is specifically save rate, but we do have totals that you know we put out there. There's an outcome report on our website. You can see which ones were impounded deceased. But we don't, that's not a statistics that we include in this report because it is specifically just for a save rate.
Any other questions? Okay, we move on to number 5, Lang Foundation presentation.
And so Jennifer Celeste Herbert from the Lang Foundation is going to be talking about what her program does and the benefits of their program and how she's helping the community.
I don't think you can see me behind this podium, so I'll just stand in front of it. Did everyone get a handout that says Lang Foundation? Okay. So I put together a little information about who Lang Foundation is. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am, what Lang Foundation is about, the specific intervention program that's here in San Bernardino, and then some future projects that are hopefully will be in the works. Again, my name is Jennifer Hurlbut, and last week I had a gentleman, he had a few things to do in the shelter, so he was in the lobby for about 30 minutes, and it was a busy day. So if you've ever been in the lobby on a busy day, you'll notice that it's just person after person after person coming up to the table where I am and then going up to the window as well. And after about a half an hour, he came up and he said to me, "So you're like a social worker for dogs?" And I thought, well, I guess, yeah, you could consider it that. My background is actually in human social services, foster care and adoptions, and community education. And so when I looked at this position, it sounded like something that I could do. This is pretty much my first foray into animal welfare. I used to work with animals in the foster care and adoption field to evaluate them to see if they would be good with children. But this is completely different, all puppies all day, all kittens all day. And honestly, I prefer it. It's really nice. And the Lane Foundation, it's been in existence for over 30 years, founded and still run by Jillian Lang, my boss. It's got a 4-star Charity Navigator rating, which a lot of issues go into that, a lot of points. When I worked for the county of San Bernardino, I worked for First 5. And one of the things we looked at in looking at nonprofits was what is their administration, what are their administration costs? Are they less than 10%? That's kind of how we gauged it. Lang Foundations, it's about 3.5% of their budget, up to about 5%, depending on the year. And what that means is that the director and the board of directors, they don't carry a salary. Most of the people who work for Lang Foundation are volunteers. So I feel very blessed to have a position that I can work at full time. What their goals are to really rescue owner surrendered pets, senior pets who are usually overlooked by the public, and pets who are suffering from injuries resulting from accidents, neglect, or abuse. So it's Lang Foundation is an actual rescue, just like a lot of others. But we have different programs throughout the Inland Empire and Los Angeles County that supplement those rescue efforts. The 2 facilities that we have are in Los Angeles County. So the first one is in West LA near Santa Monica, and it's called a halfway house, kennels. So the animals do go there until they are, adopted out, fostered out. And then we have a sanctuary up in Santa Clarita called St. Bonnie Sanctuary. We have in LA, about 25 dogs and over 100 cats. Huge patios, indoor, outdoor patios. And then at the sanctuary, there are about 20 dogs and 30 cats, and much smaller numbers because it's a much smaller area for people that go there looking to adopt. A lot of the animals that we have up at the sanctuary are, I hate to say the word unadoptable, but they're animals with behavioral issues. There's a local French bulldog puppy mill up there, and they normally euthanize their breeder dogs. So our director spoke to them and said, we'll take them. We'll take them, see if we can rehabilitate them, let them live out their lives there. So, they have issues, behavioral issues. Some of them are able to come around with training, and we're able to adopt those out. If not, then they'll live there with us, with volunteers, getting out and exercising every day. And hopefully that will be better than euthanizing them. But they do make that determination based on how the dog is reacting to living. We also have our intervention program. Now, this is also called a safety net program at some, with other rescues. So besides San Bernardino, we have one at the Lancaster shelter. And I noticed they were looking for another person up there. So if you know anybody up in Lancaster, this job is needed up there as well. Primarily what I do is offer spay and neuter voucher assistance. We have a program and there's the second page in your packet. And it lists some local vet clinics and hospitals that work with us. And we are able to provide a $50 voucher, which means that the client only has to pay $50 for a spay or a neuter, which, as you know, is a great deal. It's pretty much, I've looked at all the other voucher programs, and besides the one that the city was offering for $500 per household, this is sort of the best bet going around. It was $25 before June, but with the expansion of dogs and cats that were coming into the San Bernardino City Shelter, the requests for vouchers more than quadrupled. So we did have to change that to $50, and we did get a little pushback on that, but there were very few that I've made an exception for people who really have nothing and can't afford it, and we don't want their pet to reproduce, so we can help with that. But for now, it's $50. And when I say that the clinics will work with us, they're giving us a lower cost. So we've negotiated that over the years, and we're able to benefit from better prices with these clinics. If there are other clinics that would love to work with us, we'd love to have them as well. We were using Advanced Pet Care, but I believe they lost one of their veterinarians, and so I had to take them off our list. People can still go there and get vaccines and medical care and things like that, but they're not able to do surgeries anymore. This intervention program was created, I believe it was 2020. And the goal was to commit to $1 million over 5 years for just San Bernardino City Shelter. We're in year 4 now. And if you look at the last page, it has 2023 numbers. And we went over our budget a little bit, 43,000. So we spent 243,000 last year. This year we'll probably go over budget again. And we do that because we have donations that are coming in. So although we are able to offer a certain number of vouchers per week, per month, if there's a greater need, then I can contact my boss and say, hey, these dogs need medical support, or we have an influx of, homeless dogs from the encampments, and we need additional assistance getting, community animals fixed, and we'll be able to help with that. There are times where my boss has said, no, we need to cut back, or we can only do cats at these facilities. So you'll see on the page, some of them we had to go to cats only because we're trying to keep costs down for that month. So I'm going to quickly go over the rest of the program initiatives for our intervention safety net program, and then let you know about our future projects. One item that we do quite a bit of is emergency pet food. So although the city does provide that once a month, there are times where a client can't get there. They don't have transportation that morning, or they missed it, or they ran out. So we are able to help provide emergency food assistance for owners in the community. Pet supplies. So for instance, if somebody needs a litter box, they want to adopt this cat so badly, but they just got this money and they need something else, we are happy to provide it. A lot of times people will come into the lobby and they'll say, hey, we found this cat, and we want to keep it, but we're not I don't have any food or any pet supplies. So we've been able to help in that manner. One of the most expensive programs, or components of the program is emergency pet medical assistance. The goal of the intervention program is to prevent owner surrendered animals coming into the shelter. So a lot of times we will have owners contact us. 2 weeks ago, I had a lady contact me and say, my dog has come down with diabetes. And I love this little dog. It's a 4-year-old Maltese. My kids love this dog, but I can't afford all of the testing that goes into treating a dog with diabetes. Initial testing to find out insulin levels, and then monthly insulin supply. And so we were able to pay for that testing and then give her our discounted insulin rates. So now the dog is still at home. She didn't have to find another home for that dog, which is wonderful. Redemption shelter fees. So many times once animal comes in and they're not able to afford the redemption fees. A lot of times it's because the dog isn't spayed or neutered, isn't, registered, with the city, and doesn't have rabies or anything like that. So we're able to assist with those bills. Pet rental deposit. This is not renting a dog. This is their apartment. I know that looks kind of strange. But this is sometimes if somebody is renting from a landlord and it's $100 pet deposit, and they come in and say, well, I found this dog, I want to keep it, but I can't because they're going to charge me extra money. So I'll say, well, how much do you have? $50? All right, we'll pay the other $50. And so we're able to get them to, put a little skin in the game, but also we're able to let them keep that pet. So they don't come into the shelter. Yes.
For the pet kind of deposit, they have gone up tremendously.
Right.
$300 and $400.
Right.
And some of them even charge for them.
Oh,
Yes.
Pet rent.
yeah, a pet rent. Yeah, I've heard of that, $50 or $100 for pet rent.
Yeah.
Now, we wouldn't be able to pay an ongoing pet rent. So I would say, recommend to that owner, maybe you find a different place.
And then they can also go to the doctor and get, that their comfort pet.
Sure, yeah, if that's an issue for them, but if it's a $500 pet deposit, which I've heard of that, if they come and say, hey, we've raised $200, can you help with the balance? Then most likely we can. It's on a, I can't say it's gonna be a blanket approval. It depends on our funding that month, if we've overspent, underspent, and also that individual family. That maybe it's not just on a whim, they found a dog and they want to keep it, but this is a family pet and something new. So yeah, we do encourage them to try to, generate some income for that, towards that deposit, but we can assist. Training. So we often get owners who say, I love this dog, but I cannot keep it because it's jumping the fence. So we can help with building the fence a little bit higher. We can help with those materials. Or we love this dog, but it's pulling on the leash and I can't walk it. We can assist with training for that animal so that they can keep the animal. Boarding fees. Many times I'm contacted by Loma Linda Veterans Hospital because a veteran lives alone, doesn't have anybody to watch their pet when they're going in for surgery or a treatment. So we've been able to go pick up that animal and take it to boarding for them, and sometimes even pay for all the costs for that. So we are able to do things like that. This especially came into play this last month with all of the fire evacuees. We had dozens and dozens of requests to help board animals when the vet clinics were full. So if the vet clinics were full and there was nowhere to keep them and there weren't, hotels that were pet friendly, we were able to pay for boarding for probably 25 animals for that time. Some of them up to 8 to 14 days. In fact, there's a lady who we still have her dogs in boarding because she was hospitalized. She had a seizure during the evacuation. So her dogs are still in boarding right. Finally, for some of our future projects, one thing that our director's been talking about for a while is to open up our own clinic, our own low-cost clinic. We are really missing Loma Linda, that hospital, because they were a huge assistance to all the rescues out there and for people who were low income. You didn't have to make an appointment, you just walked in and he gave great discounts. That doesn't exist anymore. There's nothing even comparable. So if there are any veterans, veterinarian clinics out there that you know of that may be for sale, maybe the vet clinic wants to sell or is interested or anything like that, please let us know. And our email is right on there. We're looking to expand the intervention program potentially into Redlands and Riverside, pending space. Space is always an issue. Yes.
Not just for 1 more year old, or she.
She's looking to create new programs, and not just for this year, but after this year is finished. Because this is year 4 of the 5-year plan here. So after this year, she's looking to contact the other cities because we know that there's a need. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of space.
So she wants to continue the program though.
Yes.
Not only expand it, but continue it past the 5 years.
Right. So continue it in San Bernardino and then potentially expand to Redlands and Riverside. So that would be one. Yeah. And then the last bullet I have on here is just other needs identified by the community. So a safety net program is wonderful. Are there things that we're missing? Are there things that I know that we've been contacted for people who are in domestic violence situations and they can't take their pets to help, to a shelter, and we've been able to assist with boarding fees for that. I know that I do reach out to rescues a lot. So if an owner contacts me and they've got a husky and our rescue doesn't have room for a large animal, I'll reach out to other husky rescues, which is different than just going to the shelter and saying, I want to surrender the animal, because they don't, they're not able to take more owner surrendered animals. So a lot of my job is reaching out to other rescues and saying, hey, this is an owner surrender, a rescue, beagles. I've been able to place beagles and pugs, and obviously the small dogs are a lot easier, but the large ones are always difficult. Another thing that we do is assist. I've got a little friend down here, Miss Puggy. You can come over and say hi. She was just brought in today as a stray. So sometimes if one is brought in as a stray and we have room, then Lang Foundation will go with the person and register that as a found animal. So that person will still give their ID, give the location and everything of the animal. But we will hold the dog for the stray period and the found dog period, so that someone will have an opportunity to go on the website, see their dog, see it on Paw Boost and everything, but the dog won't have to go in the shelter. And we'll either foster it or we will board, in a local facility. Right now, I've got 4 cats and 2 dogs in my own home. So, we do a lot of that. And I know a lot of the shelter, staff tries to do that as well, just to keep them out. But again, if there are any other needs that you've identified in the community that our program doesn't address and that we can assist with, please email us. Love to hear it.
It's also a little bit longer should stay. System. That way they're not part of it.
I don't, since I've been here, we haven't they haven't accepted our vouchers.
Oh.
Oh, Loma Linda?
Loma Linda is what I meant.
No, they don't, they won't accept our vouchers anymore. So maybe in the future they will, but they said right now they're not. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Move on to number 6.
All right, so. We are going to, I'm gonna talk about the Michelson Found Animals in the Palm Mission Spay Neuter Initiative. A couple of months ago, Michelson Found Animals, which is a nonprofit, a national nonprofit organization that's a little more active in some of the more urban areas, came out to meet with us to discuss some potential partnerships to benefit the community. They met with us as well as George up at the county to discuss the needs of the community. And also Jessica Lopez from the Palm Mission to discuss what we could do as a collaborative effort to get more animals spayed and neutered, because although George recently was able to get a vet, we still don't have one, and the community needs some additional support beyond what we're able to provide. So they gave a grant to the Palm Mission specifically for residents of the city of San Bernardino to do free spay neuter. So this will help the community, help take some of the pressure off of the Lang Foundation, and offer opportunities for the public to get those free spay neuter surgeries through the Palm Mission. So the first one that we had was September the 27th. The next one that we have coming up is this Friday. And those spots fill up really quickly. What we've also done too, at the last one, we had somebody who was coming in to redeem their lost pet who was unaltered. And we have them already set for the October 11th date. So again, working with the community, if their animal is impounded, obviously it's an issue. If we can get them in on this program, then that helps reduce the likelihood that that animal is going to have more puppies and is able to get in as quickly as possible to get spayed and neutered. And so we're really excited about that partnership. Jessica and her team at the Palm Mission have been a great partner to us, the community. They are also doing a lot of our feral cat surgeries, the TNR surgeries, as well as some of the foster to adopt surgeries that we're working to schedule people in to get them back in on their adopted animals to have them altered. So keep on watch for those. We'll be announcing each of those dates. I will say as soon as we put the link up on social media, there are only 36 spots, and Jessica's vet, like any other vet, has a limited ability to do large dog spay and neuters. So we have limited spots for those. 2 females over 45 pounds and 2 males over 45 pounds for each surgery date. 10 cats, 10 dogs, and that's it. So it is somewhat limited again. We don't want to burn out the vets that we do have that are helping. And it is definitely a lot harder to do a spay on a large dog. It takes longer. And so there are fewer animals that are able to get altered when we have that. And that's why, some of those surgeries do take a little bit longer. Yes.
Did she do a standard?
Yes. Yeah, she actually does it at the shelter. So she parks her mobile unit in front. And gets that done. Now, we have had opportunities where she's had been able to do 2 vets at one time. And so she'll do some surgeries on her van up front, and we'll have another vet that she'll have come to our mobile unit and do some of the surgeries for either animals at the shelter or bring back foster to adopt, if we know in advance.
How many times she'll do the 36?
So it's about once a month right now, because she is doing it also for the county and other cities. So right now we're at about once a month for those. If she's able to get another vehicle and additional vets, it might increase.
One time for
Hmm?
do you know how long?
We have the funding. I know, talking to the folks at Michelson Found Animals, they realize our area is a veterinary desert and there's a lot of need. They were kind of shocked by the number of puppies at our shelter as well as DeVore. And so they recognize that this is an area where they do need to invest in the community, and there are other national nonprofits I've talked to about the same thing. Coming in and working through and investing in our community. It's a little difficult because the number of vets that are reducing, because I think even like you reference the advanced pet care. You know, I know that they weren't able to help us anymore, but that now they're down another vet and they're only open 3 days a week. And we lost Loma Linda for a lot of those low costs. The Humane Society, the last I heard, they were down to 1 vet. And so it's a significant issue in this area. And even when you're talking about Victorville and Apple Valley, it gets even worse. And so they realize that they need to do some additional investment in our community. A lot of these nonprofits, and part of that is connecting with the other animal control directors in our region, talking to those organizations, try and find some collaborative efforts to impact some of the issues that we're facing as a community.
So it's indefinite.
Yeah. It's a definite. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, well, we'll move on to number 7.
Okay, so we did staff let me know that we didn't necessarily speak on some of the programs and services, specifically community outreach, and as that relates to the statistics. So they're going to talk about that now, and then we'll talk about upcoming events as a part of that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Leslie.
So I'll be going over a little bit from this page right here that we have. So we currently have 175 animals in foster. We also had our volunteers donate 412 volunteer hours. Oh, yeah, that way. Sorry. Yeah, I'll talk this way. Our volunteers donated 412 hours of their time in the month of September.
Which one?
It's this one.
Oh,
The target you're, yeah, really.
I'll talk louder. Okay. And then currently right now we are doing play groups about 3 times a week with our volunteer coordinators and our rescue coordinators. And we are trying something new. It's called the Play and Clean Protocol. So we're trying to empty out a whole half of a building at a time while we're deep cleaning. So this is something that we're working out the kinks, and we're hoping to move this daily, but for now we're trying this about 3 times a week due to staffing shortages. It's a little hard to do that. And also we have something called positive playtime. Before
Briefly, but I talk about it some more.
Okay, so positive playtime is another enrichment that we do with our dogs. So aside from play groups, we will have our volunteer coordinators go out with our volunteers to pull out a dog, work with them one-on-one, and make them a little bit more adoptable. So even teaching them basics like jumping or sitting, and if they're not really interested in that, sometimes just hanging out for 10-15 minutes, brushing them and just putting them back so that way we can get some notes. So once we're done, we actually have our volunteers scan one of our QR codes, they upload the notes, and then our staff inputs that. So that way the public and our rescue partners can see their progress in the shelter and make them more highly adaptable. And then another thing as well, our rescue team has been working diligently. We were lucky enough to get a grant from Best Friends. We do have stipends going out for specific dogs in our shelter. So we're trying to focus on our friendly long-term stay dogs. So dogs that have been there around 60 days and they're not moving. And then other dogs too with medical needs. So if they're friendly, happy-go-lucky, but they do have an issue, we'll do that as well. And then sometimes we do special cases that require like an immediate exit. So if they're really kennel stressed and they're not thriving in the environment, we'll push them out too. So that way our rescue partners can get a stipend for helping pull out our long stay dogs.
And the stipends are $200 per dog. And they are applied to, like, we're choosing some of the dogs that have been long stays for those stipends. And so we just rolled that program out 2 weeks ago and let our rescue partners know about that. And I think we've already had 10 dogs pulled under that stipend program. And some of them are like staff favorites. that we really wanted to see exit the shelter and they've gone. So whatever we can do to help our rescue partners and be supportive of them, we know that without a vet on staff, that they are taking on additional responsibilities and costs. And so the stipend through Best Friends, the grant from them, if that helps them even a little bit offset their costs, and encourage them to take animals from us, then we are doing that.
And then our community outreach coordinator has been going out into our city along with other contract cities as Rialto. So far, the statistics are down there. We've been able to do 49 offsite vaccines, 22 offsite microchips. So this can be anything from, we sometimes go out to Succumbee Lake to help with the unhoused or other departments of the unhoused. We work with them as well. We'll provide food as well. So we've distributed 116 bags of dog and cat food, not only at the shelter at the community pantry, but also offsite if someone needs it. So that's what our community outreach coordinator has been doing. And then we're working to increase more community outreach. So once we get the kinks with neighbor and next door, we'll be talking about that as well. And we are working with our community outreach team to start planning and going out to our elementary, middle school, and high schools. So that way they can get a little bit of education, because it does start with them. Compassion starts at a young age, and then from there, yeah, and that's what we're working on so far.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then we have an event coming up on Saturday, October 19th from 11 to 4. If you guys want to come down and check everything out, we'll have K-Prop will be there live broadcasting. Stater Brothers Charities will be there, along with some other vendors like New Buffalo, Mars, and Fresh Pet. So they'll have lots of goodies for everyone at the adoption event, and adoption will be free.
I think it's a little pink flyer that we have.
Yeah.
There.
It was pink because they passed these out at the Believe Walk this weekend in Redlands.
Is it for us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and so we're excited to partner with Stater Brothers and K-Prop on these initiatives, and this event, unlike the one in June, will be at the shelter. So we're really excited about hopefully getting a lot of the really good dogs and animals that we have at the shelter right now out into permanent homes. And I think that concludes our report. Do we have any questions on either some of the community outreach initiatives or any of the events? Yes.
Not on the events, but I was just wondering about, as far as, I know the openings that you said you had for staff. Have retention been okay with the shelter? With staff that was hired like before we, keeping,
Yeah.
as far as just the.
Absolutely, yeah. Employee retention is a huge thing. So actually, we're doing pretty well. We have had some of the new positions we added, existing staff promoted into them. And of course, then we filled their vacancies. There's two really difficult positions to keep and maintain, and that is the animal shelter attendant and animal control officer. And so, that one is one of those things, whether it's an animal shelter attendant and they're applying for another job, or they have this glorified idea about what that job looks like, and they get into it and they're like, no, this isn't for me. After doing it for a couple of weeks, that's okay. Then we have to fill that position again. It takes a special person to come in and scoop poop all day long and do that cleaning and stuff. And so, I appreciate people are coming in to try that. And if it isn't for them, we'd much rather them let us know early and so that we can fill that position with somebody who is able to continue to do that. Same thing with animal control officer. Sometimes you have staff members that may be in another position. They think, oh, I want to be an animal control officer. They get out there and they discover that it's not necessarily a good fit. And so, and honestly, that is talking to other agencies. That is a really, really hard position because you're out there in the public. There's a lot of independent decision making out there, making those hard calls, it isn't for everybody. We have a core group of staff in that position. And we do have some folks that are coming in that we just finished training that we're excited about. One of the other things that we're doing is we're working along with our new partner cities on the animal control piece, and getting them some additional training and resources that are from our industry. A lot of times these cities, they have the animal control officers that are just in an embed unit from the police department, and they don't have any animal handling experience, nor do they have any classes from the animal welfare industry. It's all PD based, which is very different than having those conversations a lot more like a social worker about like some of those interactions that you have with the public. We're hoping that will eventually help with our connections in the community, and help increase people that want to get involved in the shelter, so that eventually will reduce and see a reduction in the number of animals coming in and an increase in those volunteer hours. 412 volunteer hours per month is phenomenal. I think, when I first got here in 2020, we had 0 volunteers. We had none. We had some that were coming and we didn't report it because we weren't necessarily supposed to have them on, and they just wanted to come in and help. And since then it's grown. And again, we have a lot of those groups that come in and they'll just do a day here or a day there. Amazon or Target coming out to do like a deep clean. Our 2 volunteer coordinators are going to be reaching out to youth groups and stuff to try and get some of their, special like Eagle projects and have them come to the shelter and do those things. So it's, with these positions only having been, especially the expansion of positions only having been there for 2 months, I think we're seeing a lot of growth in that department and outreach and positive impact in the community.
Yeah. Any more questions? All right. So we go to the last one. Adjournment. Does anybody else have to want to bring anything else up or?
I do want to encourage you guys, let me know. If there's something that you want to see for us to bring up on the next Animal Control Commission meeting, which will be in January, please email it to me and Natalie so that we can get that added to the agenda. Anything that you want to discuss, an issue or anything else, more than happy to bring that up.
Are we doing both next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
I figured this is the last meeting of this year. I didn't want to seat a chair and vice chair
Yeah.
the last meeting of the year. So I figured it made more sense for us to do that in January so that they can be the chair and vice chair for this quarterly meetings next year.
Are there any other awards that have vacancies for this?
So yes, and so it's Ward 3, and the mayor has a vacant position. And so I am going to be reaching out to them again. And then we also have the new council members that will be seated in wards 5, 6, and 7. And so and after January the 1st. And they may nominate new members for the commission as part of their placement on the mayor and city council.
I think one more question. The Friends of, is that?
Yes, so it is, one of the things is that I have been focused on the facilities issues and bringing on the staff. So that has stalled somewhat, and that is in my queue. What we need to do is we need to select members for that board and get the mayor and city council to approve that. I know that ours, the parks, a lot of those nonprofits that were approved. It's one of those things where it does take some time to get those up and running. And so hopefully we'll have those. My goal is to really start looking at those now. Like once we get that one building finished, we get this lease done and we're running a little smoothly, then that allows me to kind of pivot my focus to get that seated so that it can really start to be more active.
I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah.
But I couldn't remember the name. of it.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else from anybody? I can get a motion for adjournment until Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. We're done.
Not one action item on this agenda. Where's the
Ma'am,
advisement?
that's enough.
You don't have to, you can't censor me, Chris. Where are the action items on this agenda? Where are you guys advising? Did you even ask why it took till June 2025 to get these kennels put up? Do you care that they're killing hundreds of animals every month are being killed? What am I doing? Raising awareness. You're such a liar. That's your friend. That's your friend. That's conflict. You don't have the right to have me leave. Yeah, call security, Chris. It'll look great. You don't like being called a liar? Because you are. You're a liar. You don't like being calling you out.
You're a
for what
whack
you are.
job.
That's
You're a
right.
whack job. Get out of
We
here.
can't work together because she doesn't allow it.
Yes.
You don't want me to
No,
correct her.
I've been trying to get involved with this, and she's the one. It's her. It's her.
Okay, how about?
I'm leaving. I'm leaving. You don't have to tell me anything.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, I am respectful.
No, you're not. Okay, that's fine.
And they're killing animals. That's what they're doing. I appreciate it. I'm leaving. Don't worry.
Do something positive.
All right. I'm a person. The animals are being killed.
So much negativity. Yeah. And if we trust them.
That's all these activists do. They complain about every trigger. She tries himself.
I'm
Come down
over it.
and.
No, thank you.